I have to now first view the policy and accept before I record. Okay. There we go. Okay, it looks like we're recording. Let's hope for the best. That would be sad. Yep, we're recording. Good. Okay. I'm going to start off in a subject. So I'm just going to start off. So I'm assuming that you already know how to get in. So can you guys just mute yourselves, please, when you come in? Make sure that you're muted. All right. So I'm assuming that you already know how to get into eThuto and how to navigate most of the basics, because the Grade Center is more advanced and we're going to start with that today. So to access your Grade Center, and I want you to think of your Grade Center as kind of like an online spreadsheet. So the same kind of thing that you would have used in your normal practice, where you would have an Excel spreadsheet with all of your marks on it and all of your assignments and tests and all your columns and things, and you would manually enter your marks, and that's what you use to archive, to keep track of all your things. Now the Grade Center is exactly that. It's just integrated into eThuto. So think of it as your Excel spreadsheet, but in eThuto, in your subject. Each subject has their own Grade Center, and the students are automatically enrolled onto your Grade Center as rows. Every time you create an assignment, a test, or a discussion forum that is marked, so in other words, like a discussion forum that you allow marking for, a journal that you allow marking for, anything that has any kind of marking associated with it will automatically create a column in the Grade Center, so you don't have to, but you can also create your own columns. All right, so the Grade Center is under your course management section, and it's just here, and you'll see that it has an expand arrow. The first thing we have is needs marking. Now, needs marking is where everything will go that needs your attention. So if you have a test that was written by students that's not automatically marked by the system. In other words, you used either a file response, essay question, or short answer question type. That means that you have to go and put your input, your marks into the test and then save. They will come up in needs marking. All assignments will show up in needs marking, and all discussions will show up in needs marking. Another quick thing that I like to mention is if you have a test that is automatically marked, in other words, you did not use any of those 3 question types that need instructor input. If the student wrote the test late, in other words, you had a due date attached to the test and the student wrote the test after that due date, it will also come to needs marking, even if all of the questions are automated. That means you as the lecturer just have to go into the attempt and say save and exit, which means that you approve that the student may, input their test even though it was late, and it will go to the full Grade Center with all the others that were written on time. So remember that next time you have students that wrote your test late. But this will only happen if you have a due date attached to the test. So if you don't have a due date, they'll all go automatically into the Grade Center, unless you use one of those 3 question types that need instructor input. Okay, so let's have a look. Earlier today, I handed in an assignment, I handed in a test, and I participated in a discussion, and you can see that all of them are here. Now let's have a look at some of the items we have in needs marking. Now I've only got 3 things here, so it's not really difficult to navigate. I can see that the assignment was handed in late, which means it was handed in after the due date, which was the 31st of July. And I can see up to the 2nd when the student handed in. The same for tests and the discussion. I can see exactly when the student has uploaded anything. One of the things that I want to show you, though, that's very, very helpful is filtering your Grade Center when you have a lot of attempts in your needs marking. Now, firstly, we can do it by category. So if I only want to see all of the assignments, I just change the category to assignment and click go. And it will filter out and only show me those that are category assignment. And it goes for all the others. So if I change it to discussion, same thing, and so on. Okay, I'm going to put it back on all categories. We can do it by specific item. So not all the assignments, but a very specific assignment, or not all the tests, but a specific test. So I could say that I want to look at all of these item names, all the important questions test that they wrote, and go. And there we go, I can see that one. Same goes for all of the others. All right. I can do users in the same way. Now I've only got one user here, so I can't really filter that. It's just going to show exact same screen because only one user has participated. But in your case, you'll have many users. There will be a whole list here of all your users, and you can filter the needs marking by specific user. So if a student contacts you and says, sir, I wrote my test, it was a little bit late and I haven't got my score yet. And you know, okay, the scores weren't released yet because the student wrote late. You just quickly want to go and approve. Then you can search by that student quickly and quickly go to their attempt to see, you know, to approve the test. Date, same thing. So you can choose a specific date. You can say exact date and then you put in the exact date. So I want to see everything that was handed in today. It's going to be exact same list because all three of those were handed in today. But in your case, you can be a bit more specific. Or you can say before. So I want to see everything that was handed in before the 20th. Now all of my lists will disappear because nothing has been handed in before. After and any date is which it's on. All right. So these are some of the filter options that you have here, and I find them very, very helpful if you have large classes or you have a moderator coming in and they just have to check specific users, or if you have different teaching assistants that may help you with the marking and you have a system on who marks what, then these really help you sort out your lists, because these can go on pages and pages and pages, and that's just really confusing. This little block has confused a lot of people in the past. So what that says is it says show attempts that don't contribute to users mark. Now, on purpose, I exempted this test, which means that this is not the test that contributes to the user's mark. Now, this may be due to a couple of reasons. Firstly, it could be due to the fact that I may have said in the test options that only the last marked attempt will count for the user's marks, which means if there were 3 attempts, only the last one. So if the student wrote 2 attempts, number 2 of 2 will be there. So 1 of 2 will have this little gray circle with the little diagonal stripes through, and that means that 1 of 2 will not be taken into account for the user's mark. It doesn't contribute. Only 2 of 2 because I've set it up this way. For instance, if you set it up that the first marked attempt counts towards the user's marks, then 1 of 3 will show no little square, but 2 of 3 and 3 of 3 will show exemption and will not contribute to the user's mark. So that is what that little icon means there. And what I can do is if I have a lot of attempts, so I gave my students 3 attempts and almost all of them used all 3 attempts. Now I've got 3 listings here for each student, and if I have 100 students, that means I've got 3 here that I have to canvas through and figure out which one is the one. Now if I set to the system only the last marked attempt will count, and I uncheck this little box, it will filter out all of the exemptions. So in other words, if I said last marked attempt, 1 of 3, 2 of 3 will be taken out of this list. So I'm going to refresh my screen and you'll see that one has been removed. Okay, so that is what this one is for. I'm going to check it again, refresh my screen again, and there it's back. So very important to remember that if you have multiple attempts, but only one of the attempts is supposed to contribute to the user's mark. Excuse me. All right, so that is what we have here in Needs Grade Center. We've got the option to hide the filter if you want. By default, it will be open, but if it bothers you and you don't use it, you can just click on the filter button there and it will hide it. Then we have the mark all. That means that everything that is in my needs grading, I go straight to mark all. It'll take you to the first attempt, and you can toggle between your attempts with these 2 arrows. So back, forward. So if I want to go to the next attempt, I just click that, and the next attempt, and I just click that. All right, so that is mark all, and then I can just go through them one by one as I would have. It's exactly the same if you actually click on the attempt. So normally we click on the attempt if we want to mark a specific one, but if you just click on the very first attempt, you'll get exactly the same option as you get in mark all. You see again, we've got view 1 of 3, and you can again go through them all. If I were to, for instance, click on the middle one, the attempt, it'll take me straight to 2 of 3, and now I can go back to 1 or forwards to 3. Okay, so it all depends on your style and your practice and what is easier for you as a workflow. Normally, I just go and I filter the ones that I want. So I'll just go and say, I just want to mark the assignments now. And then I'll click on the first one and I'll work my way through that. Okay. Can I undo that quickly? All right, so let's go and have a look at assessing the 3 categories that we have today. Now, I did not include a journal, a blog, and some of the others, but you're more than welcome to give me a call if you are interested in using those with marks. But they really work exactly the same way as the discussion, which is why I don't include them in the session. And I feel like it'd just be superfluous to go through them as well. But you are really welcome to give me a call and I'll help you set up journals or blogs or any of the other things that you can add marks to. All right, so let's have a look at assignment. So I'm going to click on the assignment. And this is what it's going to look like. Now, PDFs and Word documents, also PowerPoint slides, JPEG and PNG images, and some of these others will show up in the marking box. But specific file formats that are maybe specific to your practice, for instance, I know the accounting and HR lecturers have specific softwares that they use, and those might have specific file formats. They won't show up in the box. They'll just have a link for downloading the file. But Word, PDF, most of those will show you in the little marking box, the annotation box, the assignment that the student has done. And this is quite nice. It didn't always used to be this way, and what makes it great is means everything is so integrated that you don't have to download, open. You can just go through the motions of marking without having to go to extra windows and all those things. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the annotation pane, which is up here. All right, now I'm just going to close this little thing that says it might take a while to process the conversion because it's already processed, and we can have a look at some of these things. Now, thumbnails. Same as with a PDF or any document, it just shows you the thumbnails of the pages. So if you just want to have a quick look at all of the pages that the student has handed in, just click on the thumbnails. You can go to a specific page, like you would in any other document. Pan mode, so if you prefer, instead of using the little bar, you prefer to drag. So I'm holding in my mouse button and I'm dragging through the document. So this is pan mode. This is quite nice for, I see the art lecturers use this a lot because they have documents that they want to pan through. But for most of you, I think you will just prefer to go through the, bar, or your mouse cursor will, your mouse will probably have a little wheel that you can spin with. All right, next one is zoom in and zoom out. That's self-explanatory. You can open up so that it fits the page. So in other words, depending on your computer, what you work on. So if it's defaulted, sorry, what's default? Best fit. Okay, so it will always be on best fit, but you can change it so that it fits width of the box or page. So again, these are just preferences. I always leave it as I find it, but you're welcome to go and toggle through those and see which one works best for you. The next one we have is the annotation tools, and these are very important. These are where you can scribble or put images or anything, and then your moderator can come afterwards and also do the same. So these are quite nice. They save automatically, so you don't have to save anything. You can just annotate and it will save automatically, no problem. So we click on annotation tools. We've got drawing, images, text boxes, or shapes. Well, it's more lines than shapes, really. Let's look at the first one. The first one is drawing, so I'm going to open up the little menu next to it. I can have a brush or a pen, so it depends on how you like to write. The brush for me is a bit thick. It's difficult to, actually make a little mark or anything with it. So I normally use drawing. Eraser, obviously, if you make a mistake, you just come and erase it. So I'm going to click pen. Now I've got the option to choose the color or the fill, transparency, thickness, and then overlay, so blend mode. I'll show you what all of them do. Just give me a sec. All right, color I'm first going to choose. I'm going to choose a nice red. Normally the lecture comes in with a nice red. I'm going to close that up again. I'm going to choose a bit of a thicker brush today so we can see it nicely. And let's have a look at what this does. All right, so now you go and you draw your shape. And you, just like anything. So I'm using a ball mouse to save my shoulder because I'm on the computer a lot, so I can't really draw very nicely. I'm sure you can do better with a regular mouse, but you can just put in your shape here. You can change your colors. So if your moderator comes, they can just color over it. I just want to put on some layers so that I can show you what the opacities do. All right, and you can go and make all of your necessary things. So I can say this is wrong, etc. All right. Now, for instance, I can change the opacity so that it almost works like a highlighter. So I've got the opacity on 52%, which means it's lighter. So in this case, highlighters, we normally use a yellowish color. Oops, excuse me. Go back. So this looks like a highlighter. All right, so that's the opacity. I'm going to just change it back to 100. Thickness, I showed you what we do. And then blending. Let's have a look at some of the blendings we can use. I think we first have to select one. Oh. All right, so I'm going to use screen. Those of you who have design background will know what they mean, but you can go and play with them. But these are really a bit more advanced. I can't imagine any of you use it. For instance, overlay just means that it blends into the background. So I'm going to do this, and you can see it blends in a different way. That was just a lower opacity. This was a blending mode. If I were to choose a multiply, for instance, it will do that, a very darker yellow. Screen will make it lighter. Darken, so it means that everything that is darker will show but not lighter. Lighten is the opposite, and you can go and play around with these if there are things that you want to do, but really honestly these are just nice to have. I can't actually imagine you guys have the time to go and play with your annotations like this, but they are available, so just know that they are. Okay, next thing we want to look at is images. That's very simple, straightforward. I normally use these just to put my signature on documents, and that's probably what you would use the most for, but you might want to use a you know, a picture like a little thumbs up or something for the student, just to be nice so that they can see, you know, they've done well or something. But normally we're just going to use a signature, so I'm just going to open up an image. There is my image. Move it around, make it smaller and bigger, put it wherever I need to put it. Okay, so that's for images. Text box, that's so you can type, so I'm going to add a little text box. I'm going to just put this under. Normally it would be something like this. We just want to put in the date. Okay, so that's text box. And then we've got shapes. So let me just have a look at some of the shapes we can draw. We can draw arrows, rectangles, ellipses, polygons. So if I want to make an arrow, for instance, look, there is my signature. And again, you can choose colors. So if you want maybe a red arrow, you can change it to red, and etc. Or maybe we want to make a little ellipse because we want to focus on something. You can just draw a little ellipse, and you can change it afterwards, which is quite nice. Yeah, so these are all the annotation tools that you've got available. They work really great. There are some things that annoy me. For instance, if you have the pen activated, so I'm just going to activate the red pen. When I scroll down, it undoes the pen, and then I have to go and choose the pen again, and I have to go and choose red again, and it's quite annoying. This is one of the things that annoy me most. But however, if you do choose the pan, it's supposed to sort that out. Let's test it. All right, so I've got pen. So let's see if I pan. See, it already took the pan away. No, so that doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. So this is something that annoys me. Every time you scroll down, you have to go back to the pen. But it's not that much of it. You just literally click the pen again, and then it will allow. It's nicer. It would have been nicer if every time you scroll down, the pen just stays activated. But I mean, it's not the end of the world. You just click back on the pen. We finally got them to, because it used to default the pen as well. So if you had the red pen selected, you had to literally go back and choose the color again. So at least we got them to the stage where now it keeps the pen settings. You just have to click on the pen again. So yeah. All right, that is your annotation tools. The next one up is comments, and we all know these. These are where I click on something. So I'm going to click on the word online and put in my little comment, whatever it may be. And the student will be able to come and see this, or your moderator, or whoever. Okay, next one is print. Self-explanatory. If you still use printers, I don't think we do. You can print the document out, and this will print it out with your annotations. So just make note of that. Download. So we download it to our computers. Again, make note it downloads with the annotations. If you want to download a clean version or the original version, download from here. There's a little one on the side here. Okay. And then you can download the original without your drawing and stuff on that. Search documents. So if you want to search for a term or a word, I can search for, oh no, assessment would be a bad word to search for. Let's say we search for computer. No, none of that. Device will probably show up. I should have thought of terms to search, but anyway, it works like that. So you just search a term and it takes you to that. Content library we don't have. It's just where you can purchase these extra library contents from Blackboard, but no one on campus that I'm aware of have purchased these, so I don't think we have them available. All right, so that's it for the online annotation box. Next thing we have a look at is here the assignment details. So we can see what the assignment is, what was uploaded, and class statistics if we had them switched on. We can see the mark is still nothing at the moment. We haven't put anything in here. I can see when the attempt was uploaded and it was late. And I can see the safe assignment report. Remember, this is only available if you switched it on during the creation of the assignment. So I'm going to open that up. I can view the originality report. It'll take me to the report itself. And here I can go and have a look. Now, I'm not going to cover the safe assignment originality report. I have videos on that. I've also done training on that. But you're welcome to give me a call for a recap if you can't remember. We do not advise or give advice or in any way have any opinions regarding the percentage. That is up to your department and whatever they decided. We don't have any. So a lot of people call me and say, what kind of percentage should I be looking for? We can't say. That's not our place. We leave that up to you and your HOD to decide what the percentage is you want to have a look at. All right, if you added a rubric, you'll find it here. There's the little rubric. You fill it in and save it. And it will automatically put in the mark of what you decided on the rubric. You can add some feedback notes from your computer, anything like that. Now, here's something very important that I want you to note. A lot of people save the draft at this point. That will not release to the student, and it won't be finished. So you want to submit. Submit means that the assignment is marked, and it will be removed from the needs marking section. Okay. Now, because that was the only assignment, it took me back to the full grade center. I'm just going to go back to needs marking. Oops, I did the exact opposite. Okay. Now let's have a look at marking tests. Now, we're assuming that this test has an essay question, a short answer question, or a file response question, and that's why it ended up in needs marking, because it was not late. Okay. So again, click on the attempt, and for tests, we have a little bit of a different system, so it shows you the attempt as such. You can see all the question types that were automatically marked, for instance, multiple choice, true or false. Well, all the question types except for those three will be automatically marked, and you can see here that they have already put a score in. Everything except for the essay question, which has a little space here for me as the lecturer to put in a score. All right. You can go through them and you can undo any of these. So even though the system marked this, if you decide that the student is in fact correct here, or maybe close enough, you can put in a mark that overrides the system's decision. So remember that all of these are like that. You can override all of them. Now I'm just going to give the student 5 for the essay question. That means all the questions are now marked, and then I'm going to save and next, and that will take me to the next test. But before I do that, I just quickly want to show you this is something we always miss, and it's very handy. This little test information button can be expanded. And here you can see some interesting information regarding the test. Firstly, you can see the status, the attempt. Now it's still 0. The moment I save it, it will turn to whatever it counted up as. The date started, the date finished. I can clear the attempt from here, but please don't do that unless you're absolutely sure, because an attempt that has been cleared cannot be recovered. And you can edit the test. Now you can edit the test after it has been written, but remember that it will change the mark for all the students who have written the test. So if you remember after a test has been written that it should have been out of 50 points instead of 40, you can change it and it will update for everyone. The access log is very handy because it shows you exactly when the student started and question by question the time period it took them. So this is quite handy to have a look at. All right, so I'm going to click Save and Next. So look at our time. All right, we've got half an hour. And I can see here that we have moved on to the next thing, which is the discussion. Now, this is what a discussion looks like. So I told the system, so when I set up my discussion forum, that after every 2 posts, the students should come into needs marking. That means if the student participated in a discussion forum 2 times or more, it will show up in needs marking. If the student only participated once in this instance, they will not show up, but you can decide how many times your students should participate before they qualify for marks. So now I can have a look at the students' participation. And you can see I just put in some replies here. I put in the first reply, second reply, third reply, and you can go and read them. You can see tags and all of these things. You can see if they were rated, if you allowed that, and you can go and have a look at all of the students' participation. Now you can obviously go back to the thread itself if you want to see the participation in context by just clicking on the thread name, and that'll take you to the thread itself. And here you can see the students' participation in context. Right, so I'm just going to go back to that. Here you can see the student had 3 participations or 3 threads that they added. That should show all anyway. And then here you can put in the mark. Now you could have attached a rubric to this as well. So if you had a rubric, it would have showed up here the same as it does with an assignment. You can also add feedback to the learner or notes and upload files and things like that. You can reply from here, all of this, but now let's just give the student 8 and then submit. And now my needs marking section is empty. So I've got nothing more here to mark. All right, so that is needs marking. Let's have a look at the full grade center, which really is the crux of what we're doing today. So when you open your full grade center, this is your spreadsheet. Your students are automatically enrolled, so they will already be here. First name, last name, username, last access. These will be here by default. And these will be your frozen columns, meaning that if I scroll my bar on, those frozen columns will stay put. Okay, we can change all of this to suit your needs better. Then from there on is all of my columns that have been either created by me or with tests, assignments, discussions. So new columns always at the end. So let me show you quickly. I've got a lot of columns here. Sorry, I also use this page to test out tests for people. So sometimes I have quite a lot of things here. All right, and you can see all of your documents. Now there's something I deleted an assignment earlier because I wanted to show you what happens. Now, if you have not marked your assignments and you delete them from the content area, this is what happens. So I think it was this one. The attempt is deleted as well. So please, please make note of that. Do not delete the assignments from or tests or anything from your content area until the end of the year or whenever. Rather hide them so that you have them as a backup. But if you delete it from here, it will also be removed from the grade center. If you've already marked them, it will keep the mark score, but no attempt attached to it. So in other words, you have no proof of where that mark comes from. So there will be a 3 or something here. Let me show you this one, for instance. Nope, that one is what I just had.
Leandri, can I quickly say something?
Yes, please.
The lecturers must please be aware you must never delete any attachments or any papers or exams or tests, because that is must be archived for 5 years. So that is very important. Otherwise, AGU won't have the evidence of the paper that you have that the student written or that you have marked it. So that's really important to not delete ever the attempts of the students.
Thank you, Dr. Barnard. Yes, so remember, if you delete them, this is what happens. They literally, the attempts are removed, even though the column is saved, and it shows you that there was something that needed marking, but because the assignment was deleted from here, it links up to the grade center, so it's also deleted from there. So remember, they are always linked together. So one action here will repeat here. So make sure that you never ever delete, rather hide them. I like to just always have one little folder where I put stuff in that I don't want students to see or use or anything. But really, you can just hide an assignment. So if I hide this one, make unavailable, students can't see it. It's still there. The marks will still be in my full grade center, and I still have it for my archive. So please never ever delete assignments. I know it starts getting cluttered and things like that, but just kind of organize your menu in a way that it doesn't bother you too much. All right, so now we're going to have a look at those 3 that we marked. So I'm going to just quickly go to the example. This is the assignment we just marked. If you want to ever go back to anything that you've marked through the Needs Grade Center, you can do it just here in your full grade center. So go to the corresponding student row and the corresponding assignment column. You'll see a little menu button pops up here, and there is the attempt. I just clicked on it and it took me back, and I can always come back. I can change my annotations. I can make more annotations. Let's make a nice purple, and they will be saved. So this is why the moderators can come after and also make annotations. We can change the score so that it's back to 8. So you can always come back and rework a marked assignment. So you do it through the full grade center. Okay, now let me just go and have a look at the test. The same goes for tests. The same goes for, what is that test called? Import questions. That was it. Should be somewhere near the end. There we go. All right, so there's the test that we marked today. So the same thing, go to the corresponding row and column, access the menu, attempt, and I can go and change anything. So if I later decided that I gave everyone an extra mark for this one, I can do that and submit, and it will change in the grade center. So you can always come back to tests, assignments, discussions, anything like that. All right, so I've got learning unit 1. Where's that? Just sort. There we go. Learning unit 1, the discussion we just marked. And we can mark the user activity again, change anything that we need to change, add comments, add anything that we need to do. Okay. Alrighty, so that is it for marking. I'm going to move on to some of the cool stuff you can do in the grade center itself. Now, as you can see, and I find this a lot, one of the problems we have is that when lecturers copy over their subjects from previous years, they don't delete old columns, so it ends up looking like this subject. You've got no control over what's going on. Okay, so what we do is we have this little Manage tab at the top where we can column organization. I'm going to go through some of these others for you as well. I just first want to have a look at column organization. For me, it's the one we use most, and it's the most important one. So manage, column organization, and here we can have a look at our columns and change some things. So some of the things we can do from column organization is we can change the frozen columns. So if I don't want to see the first name and the last name in the frozen column, I can hide them. So I just check them and I hide them. Oh, sorry, they can't be hidden. The first name can't be hidden. If they can't be hidden, like the first name, for instance, we can just drag it below. Then we should be able to hide it. There we go. All right, so your first column can't be hidden. So just make sure that you first take them down so that they are below the frozen bar. This means that only these two will show up now as frozen. So you can only see the student number, that is the username, and the last date they've accessed. There are some others, the availability and ID, but these really aren't important. We have them by default under the frozen bar. But you can just go and change how you want that frozen bar in the beginning to appear for you. Then we've got your columns that are your weighted totals and attendance columns. And all the columns that you've created by creating tests or assignments. You can see under category what types they are. If they have no category, it's probably a column you've created and not given a category. Otherwise, they will be assigned with what they initially are. You can see how much they're worth. You can see the dates that were created, etc. Now, for instance, I'm going to go and get rid of some of these old columns that I've got, and I just want to go and hide them. So I'm going to hide everything today that we didn't work with. So this one we worked with today, I'm going to hide these. That's the discussion. I'm going to leave that. Test. All right, so I want to get rid of all of these. I'm not going to delete them because I want to keep them. I just don't want to really have to browse through them every time I try and do anything in my grade center. And now you can see that anything that is hidden goes to a light gray, and anything that is shown goes to, so I'm going to hide that one as well. There we go. And everything that is shown is black. Okay, it's not done yet. If I exit now, it won't be saved. We have to submit first. So I'm going to submit. And look at how much more tidy my grade center is now. Just those three things that I've got. Right, so that is manage, column organization. So always remember this. I get a lot of calls where people say, I can't find my column. And what happens in that case is they want to hide the column from students. Okay, so they go to the columns little menu and they hide from instructor instead of students. And this is what happens when you do that. Now it's gone. And then they didn't realize they can just go and put it back, so they think it's lost. So when you hide it from yourself, just go to Manage, Column Organization, find your column, click its little radial box, and then Show, Submit, and it's back. Okay. Right. So let's have a look at some of the others we have here in Manage. I'm just going to cover some of them. Color codes is quite important. So this is where you can color code your grade center. So you can say marking status. So you want all of your needs marking ones to be a nice bright yellow. Now we don't have any, so it's not going to show up because we just marked all of our assignments. In progress, meaning that the student is still writing the test, you can choose a color for. Exempted, meaning that if you that attempt is not counted towards the student's mark, you can have that as a color as well. I'm just going to leave it back on white because we don't have any of these criteria. But what I love is you can add criteria for the marks. So in other words, the numbers in the columns. So I'm going to add a criteria and I'm going to say that if my student has between 0 and 50%, meaning failed, let's make it 49 because 50 is passed. I want the background color to show up as red. Okay. And then I can have a look at the preview and I see, okay, now it's not very clear. So I'm going to change the text color to white. That's not white. Apply, and then, yeah, that's more readable. Okay, now I've got a criteria. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to say between 50% and 74%, I want it to show up a nice green. This means that these students passed. Again, I'm going to make the text white just to be a bit more readable. Now I know all the students who have, and then I'll add my final criteria. I'm just doing basics now. I'm doing, you know, fail, pass, excel, but you can do whatever you need to. And just to quickly see those students, I'm going to make it a nice, pretty tealy color. And we can make that white as well. The white just shows up a lot better, especially with numbers, I find. And then there are your criteria. Okay, and we submit, and now we'll have a colorful grade center. Now, for instance, if I change the test, let's change the assignment. Okay, I'm going to change the assignment to something that's fail. So I'm going to change it to 4. It's going to show up as red. So I can quickly see all my students that need help. Okay. And then if I have one that is excelled, so I'm going to quickly do that. Where's that? I'm going to give them 10 here. That should do it. It's going to show up as that nice teal color. And this is a very quick way to see when your students are struggling, when they need praise maybe for doing well, or just, you know, the guys in the middle who are passing. And I kind of love this about the Grade Center. So one of my favorite tools to use. All right, so let's have a look at some of the columns we can create. Now, there are 2 types of columns that we can create. We can create normal static columns, so just literally a column where you type in marks, or we can create calculated columns. So let's first create just a normal static column. And we do this by just clicking on this little button. We're going to call it, maybe it was an activity they performed outside. Let's call it will activity. This was something they had to go and do a simulation. It wasn't done on Blackboard. That's why I'm putting the column in. And, you know, I call it that. Now, grade center name, and this is important. I want you to focus on this. This will give it another name in the grade center, but the students will still see it as will activity. So, for instance, if you have ARC coming in and they are marking it, and according to ITS, this should be called Test 1, Term 1, or whatever the case may be, whatever you call it in your practice and what ITS is going to be looking for, then you can give it this other name for those guys, for your moderators or whatever, and this is what it's going to be called in the grade center. Okay, so you can always come and change that. So I'm just going to call it Test 1 in the grade center. We've got a couple of things that we can change. Do we want it to show in percentage or in score? You can also choose letter text and those American things, or complete, incomplete. I normally choose percentage because it just integrates easier into my mark system. So when I have to upload to ITS later, it's already in percentage. You can have a secondary display. So if you want the mark to also come in as, you know, if the student had 40 out of 50, it will show 80% and 40. But I don't really see that being necessary. What kind of thing was this? So this was an assignment, practical maybe. You can go and decide what kind of category you want to give that. And this is out of 50. You can add a rubric like you can with any other assignment. You can add a due date. Include it in the grade center calculations. It will be defaulted to yes, but if you don't want to, if this doesn't actually count towards anything, you can check no. Show it to students or not. So if they shouldn't see their marks yet, best to do that on no. And then show statistics to the students, yes or no. Now, this is something that you have to check with your HOD. Some departments don't prefer that students see each other's marks or the mean or the average. So you can't see the other students' marks. Sorry, I misspoke. But they will be able to see the average. So just make sure with your HOD if they are allowed to see that. Some of the departments I know don't allow it. All right, now I've created my column, submit. New columns always come to the end. Now, this little icon means it's hidden from students. Remember in the settings I said I want to hide it from my students? That means that it's hidden from my students. When I want to show it to my students, I just access its little menu here and say hide from students on off, and now it's visible to students. Nope, I actually don't want them to see it, hide it again from them. All right, so that's that little icon there. If you hover your cursor over it, any icon, it will give you a short description of what it means. Or you can go to the icon legend and see what all of the little icons mean in the grade center. Okay, we don't really see a lot of these bottom ones. Errors when there's something wrong with the system. I haven't actually seen one of those in years. Not participating is when you make a group assignment and the student is not in one of the groups. Then this will show up. It means that that student is not participating in this assignment. Anonymous marking, meaning that the student can't see the marks. All right, so you can go have a look at the icon legends. Columns can be reorganized. So if I wanted to bring this to the front, I go back to manage, column organization, and I want to move that column. So I'm going to move it by going to my 4 arrows. So like anything else in Blackboard, drag it up to where I want it and submit. And now it's moved to the front of the row. So I can move that anyway. Okay, so that's just a normal column. Okay. Now, under calculated column, we have 4 options. Average column means that you select columns, and this column averages them out. Minimum and maximum column, if you choose a minimum column, you choose columns in your grade center and the minimum score will be allocated or the maximum score will be allocated. Now, this is nice if you use that kind of Olympic method. They had 10 assignments, but only the 8 best ones count towards the end. Then the minimum maximum column is quite great for that. Total column, so all of the columns that you choose will be added up into one total. I'm going to show you weighted column because the way weighted column works will teach you how to do all 3 of the others. Okay, so again, we have a column name. I'm just going to call this weighted. Again, you can give it a grade center name. So maybe this is final. And this is what's going to show up in the grade center. So your moderator or ARC auditor will see this, not this, because you guys really give funny names to assignments. It's very difficult sometimes to find the correct one. So please think of the people who moderate, audit, and support you having to find things in your grade center as well. So that's why we want you to name them carefully. You can put in a description, so I can say that this is semester 1 weights, for instance. Oops, caps. Again, primary display percentage or score. We can have a secondary display, see the date created. Now we get to choose which of these will be weighted. So I can filter them out. I can say that I want to have a look at all my assignments, and all of my assignments should be weighted, or all of my tests should be weighted. But now I've only got 1 column of each, so I'm going to just choose my columns. So there is Learning Unit 1. I just want to find those. It's supposed to hide these actually. All right, let's have a look. Example assignment, that's the one we had. And I'm going to add that next. So you choose the one that you want. The discussion was Learning Unit 1, so I highlight it. Take the little arrow to put it over, and the third one was something test. Import test. Let's find it. Where is import test? Oh, I gave it another name, didn't I? All right, let's just do this one. Import questions, I think it was called. Oh, all right. I'm going to choose that one. Let's move it over, and then we have our 3 columns that we have here. Sorry, I can't remember what the secondary name was. I gave that one now. Okay, and then what we're going to say is what do they weigh? Now, it has to add up to 100%, obviously. So we can do something like 50 for the assignment, 20 for the discussion, and 30 for the test. That adds up to 100, perfect, and these are my weights. So exactly the same as you would have done in your Excel sheet. We just do it here and simpler. It's actually nicer because you don't have to put in your formulas, and I always have to Google formulas because I always forget them. Here you just put in your weights and it does it automatically. Calculators running total, yes or no? So in other words, even if test 1 hasn't been written yet, will it show your student kind of where they are, the running total, or no? In other words, it only shows when all 3, the criteria have been met, the 100%, and only then will it show. Including grades into the calculations show to students, etc. So the same ones. So if this is their final mark, you'll probably want to hide this from them so they don't see it. You wanted to go through ITS and AGU first, and then we submit. And there is our final mark, and it's already weighted out according to what we wanted to weigh them. Okay, again, I can see the little icon there is not visible to users. Let me just have a quick look at our time. All right, almost done. I just quickly want to go through the reports, and then we have everything that we need to know about the Grade Center, and then I'll show you how to download it when you're done. All right, we've got 3 types of report that we can generate here. We can view mark history, which is probably the most used one, so you can quickly go and have a look at what happened. So I can see that even though there were only 3 things that I marked, you can see them here. It's those that test 1 discussion. There was quite a lot of action. I can see the times the lecture changed. I can see the user who uploaded, and I can see the lecturer who changed it. So I can see here that was me who changed all of this. If you have more than 1 lecturer, then it will show different names. You can click on the name to go and have a look at the change, but this shows you all of the action that has been going on in your grade center. These lists can get very, very long, so always make sure to hide things and so on if you want to use this. The next one under reports, grade report. Now, I don't really like this report. I prefer going to evaluation. If you remember, I did a eThuto talks on that. I prefer course reports here to do all my reports. I'm not a fan of this one. It's very large report and very cumbersome. So we can say final 2021 report, put in the date at the top, institution name. You can choose what you have on the report, names by users, all of that. You can put in some text. You want to draw a report on all the users or specific groups or selected users. What you want to see in the report, maybe you want to see first name, last name, and username, which is the student number. The columns that are currently displayed, so in other words, as is in the Grade Center, all columns, don't do that because you have probably a lot of hidden columns, or all of a category, so you only want to do assignments or only tests, or you want to select specific columns. Okay. What do you want to show in the report? The description, the due date, and the statistics maybe of the test or whatever you are doing, and then a footer information. So I'm going to just put end. Well, you can have a signature line, a date, and anything at the end. So we're going to submit. It takes a while. Okay. And then there is your report. And it shows all of your students. So here's the student I used today, and you can see all of their marks for the specific icons. Now we chose to show only the ones in the Grade Center. That's where only those are here. But if you had more columns that were hidden and you also wanted to include them, you could have just chosen all columns and it would have shown all of them. Okay, so that is reports. Let's exit that. All right. The last thing is submission receipts, and these are quite interesting. What I like about submission receipts is when a student hands in an assignment, they get a submission receipt number that's this very, very long number. And then if you change options from user information to confirmation number, you can type in that number. Now, I might infringe on a student's privacy here just for a quick second because I've got a number here. And then you can search, you can see the student's assignment and when they handed in. And that's a quick way of having a look at when you have a student who's handed in and they say, but I have handed in, here's my confirmation number, and you can go and search it here under the confirmation number option. However, with the user information, you can just type in the student number here, and you will see all of their submissions in this subject. Now, this student has been very active in this subject because this is my test page, and you can go and see all of their submissions. So this is quite nice if you quickly want to go and check if a student says they have handed in and you can't find it, you can just go and double check there. All right, last thing I'm going to show you is how to download and upload your grade center. That's here under work offline. If I hover my cursor over that, I've got upload and download. So let's first download. I'm going to download the full grade center, but you can go and choose a specific column that you want to download only, or if you just want to download your user information, you can do that as well. You can leave it on tab and include hidden information, no, but if you want comma delimited, if you use other Excel formats, you can do that. And I'm going to download to my computer, submit, download. It's going to download an Excel sheet. It's going to tell you that it might be corrupted. It's just because it always does that. I can go and tidy up my sheet here. See some of these things. All right. Now what I want to show you is I can add a column and then re-upload it. So I'm going to call this uploaded column, and I'm going to add a mark for the student. There we go. So I've added this extra column. I'm going to save my grade center. I'm going to just save it. Yeah, downloads is fine. And I just quickly want to go and double check what we need to upload it as. I think it's, oh, we can do it as comma tab or auto. So I'm not going to leave it as is. Browse my files. I'm going to go to downloads. Wait, let me just double check. I think I saved it as TXT accidentally. That won't do. I'll save as, yeah, sorry. Let's just make it an Excel. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to go to upload, browse, find that Excel, and then submit. It's not liking my file format. Let's just give it another go. Okay, so that has to be tab. I always get this wrong. Comma.
Leandre, you could use your TXT file.
Can I? Thank you. Ah, Wynand is a genius. All right. Okay, so maybe leave it as TXT and just do it as auto. That helps. All right, so now it's just going to show you what has been added. This is this one. These ones were already there. So it's just telling you that some of the columns in this Excel spreadsheet is already in your grade center. They match up perfectly. But this one that I've checked is new, so I'm going to add it unless you uncheck it. So if something comes up that you didn't actually want to add, you just uncheck it. Submit. It's hating me now. Come on, off you go. And now it's even logged me out. It's really no love for me when I do training. Blackboard always does this. All right, let's just go back. Gonna try again. For some reason that worked that time, and we can see I've got a new column here at the end with that mark that I've inserted for the students. Now, when you bring in a column like that from Excel, it won't have any properties, so you probably want to go into the column itself and edit the column information. And we might want to change some of these properties. We might want it to be percentage, like all our other columns. We want to give it a secondary display or not. We want to give it a category. Maybe it's attendance, and we want to give it points possible, let's say 100, and then submit. So always remember just to check some of those things when you have uploaded a new column. It won't have any characteristics. All right, that is it for me. We are on the hour almost. We have 3 minutes left for questions and answers. If we don't get to your questions and answers today, please feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to take you through anything else. But this is basically all of the grade center. So I'm hoping that this will help you with your moderation upcoming and your marking that is upcoming. All right, please feel to unmute yourself and ask any questions.
Hello, Leandre. I got lost when you were doing the color coding.
Okay, that's not a problem. I recorded the session, and by the end of the day, it will be on our YouTube channel. So if we go to YouTube, we have this channel called CET, E-Learning and Educational Technology channel. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it in our comments. So just have a look at the chat and you'll see I have pasted in the chats the link. Otherwise, you can just go into Google and search it. Right, so that's the easiest way. And on this channel, we have playlists. Okay, so when you click on playlist, you'll see the very first one is eThuto Talks. And here you will find today's session a little bit later today. Okay, and you'll find all of the eThuto Talks and you can watch through them at your own pace. Okay, so if you got lost anywhere, don't worry, it's not the end of the world. It's all recorded and it's all saved. Any more questions?
Yes, Leandri.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, my students have a tendency of submitting via my email. So is there a way of me uploading the assignments again on eThuto? Because I know that I'm able to edit their marks from 0 to a certain mark, but I just wanted to know if it's possible to give them a mark on the grade center.
So unfortunately, you can insert a mark, but you cannot upload on behalf of a student. It's a security thing. It's to safeguard you and the student. In other words, the student can never come back and say, yeah, but my lecturer did something funny here, because you can't. So there's no way that can backfire on you. So no, you can't upload on behalf of the student, but you can always override a mark. So I'm going to show you. So if I have a student here who did not hand in an assignment, so if I click on this one, I can see there is an attempt by the student. Now, in this case, I can insert a mark manually. I can give the student 5, but I can see the little arrow here that means overridden. Mark has been overridden by me, and I can see here that there's no attempt from the student. So you can do that, but you can't upload on behalf of the student. What we always recommend is when your students email if they had any problems with eThuto, but to be honest, it takes the same amount of data to email the project than it would to upload to eThuto, just as a note. What you do is you just give that student another go so that they can upload the assignment late. You know that the student was on time because they emailed you, or just be very strict with them and say no emailing documents, no emailing assessments. I need them in Blackboard.
Okay, thank you.
It's actually very important to note here that students must submit on Blackboard. If you receive anything by email, that evidence of his assignment must be uploaded in some way or must be saved in some way, that when AGU try to get hold of it, or a student wants a remark or whatever, it must be available digitally. So it's very important that students must submit using Blackboard. And one of the things that we experience is students who have a problem to submit are usually students who are trying to do that through their cell phones and so on. And it's rather important that a student must use a proper device like a laptop to submit their assignments.
Okay, thank you, Doc. Any more questions quickly before we wrap it up? I've got Prof. Makura, your hand is up, raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to ask the issue of CUT email for students. I don't know who is responsible, because this culture of using Gmail and Yahoo's and whatnot by students, and yet I'm told they have a CUT email. It's also giving us challenges. I would like and love to see an email, the use of the student email, that is supplied by CUT. So I don't know how you would advise us on that. Thank you.
I'm not entirely sure who in IT is responsible for the email allocations. Dr. Barnos, do you know? But it's not us. It's not the e-learning emails and portal and all of those things is handled by our colleagues at IT services. So this is something that you might want to have to take up with them. They can change the emails on Blackboard to an email they check regularly, but that's not something we can control. That depends on the student. But for any training on the email or anything like that, I think you need to contact Dr. Barnos. Do you know who specifically at IT we contact for that?
No, that's they will have to do that through the IT service desk. But a student is allocated a formal email address or email when he is enrolled, and that is the student number at stud.cut.ac.za. It's the same that they use for the sign-in. So they all have that, and they can get access to that through the student portal. But as Leandri said, it's not our responsibility there, and we do not have that access, and we do not know how it functions. It is the IT services that should provide them. They do provide in the beginning of the year a document to students with some of that information to access that. But as far as I know, it is through the student portal, and we do not have any problem. I want to iterate that I think it's actually a good thing that you as lecturer ask your students to go in eThuto and at their profile to change their email address to their email address of that they usually use or that they frequently look at. And the reason for that is just we know that the students don't really go to that formal student address that they have at CUT. And when it is corrected on Blackboard, that email address of the student, then the student will receive also his announcements and all that stuff on that email. So it's rather, I think it's a better option. It's not the best option, but it's a better option that they change their emails in their profile to the emails that they frequently access.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to wrap up for the day. We've gone over an hour and 20 minutes of recording. I don't want the videos to become too long. But if you do get stuck on anything Grace Center related, please give me a call or send me an email. We also have the WhatsApp group where we answer any of your questions. But we're going to wrap up for now. And please go and have a fantastic weekend, everyone. And end of the term, so it's nearly there.